aging is okay and it happens and there's nothing we can do about it. And instead of seeing it as a negative thing, rejoice in the fact that that's happening.
Please,
like,
can you say that again?
Rejoice. Like there's nothing you can do. We all age, our bodies change, and embrace it.
Welcome to yet another episode of Co.40 Insights Spot. This is a discussion platform where we trace the journey, break down the blueprint, and dive deep into careers of movement artists. Before I introduce our next guest, give me a few seconds of your time. If you enjoy watching the content and hasn't subscribed, head over to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Co.40 Insights Spot. And in case you want to follow daily updates and behind the scenes, then subscribe to our social media platforms, TikTok and Instagram at Co.40. This means the world to us, so thank you very much. Ilana, so great to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
How do I pronounce your second name?
Reynolds.
Reynolds.
Like Reynolds rap.
Okay. Before we begin, I would like to know, what is it that you would like our audience to know about you?
Oh man, I think the first thing that comes to mind is that my dance path, let's say, followed a very untraditional path in the sense that I never was part of a dance school or a well-known dance school or a dance academy, and I knew basically at the age of 12 that I really wanted to dance. And but my path always led me to a place of always reaffirming that desire that I wanted to dance. So when things didn't really go the way I had planned in terms of being part of a dance institution or dance school, I kept on saying, no, this is something that I want to continue to do. And I kind of plowed my own path in a way. And I think that brought me to a lot of really interesting encounters with different artists and different experiences that I was very excited to have. And I guess the path of a dancer, choreographer, performer is one that is not always straight and deviates. And I think it's for those who really want to follow a path like that maybe doesn't follow a traditional straight line, knowing that there can be always beautiful deviations, and deviations are good.
Oh, great. What was that moment? Because you said around 12, you felt like you needed to be a movement artist, a performer. What is there something specific when you were 12 that kind of flipped the switch in your mind?
Yes, it was a dance studio in Madison, Wisconsin. So these kind of very showy American dance studios where you have like the dance moms and like the tutus. And my mom and I were walking in there because we were picking up my best friend's sister. And she was taking a ballet class. And there was a little window. And I remember looking into this window and seeing them dancing. And as a young girl, I had taken creative movement. I also was, a little ballerina and in funny costumes and so forth. But this moment was really different because I remember looking through this window and they weren't doing anything spectacular. And just something in my gut hit me where I was like, I have to do that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how does that make you feel, like still being able to dance, tour, and be active in movement?
Oh, it's very exciting because I feel the older I get, my relationship to performance and movement and dance is changing, and I'm noticing that difference. And I feel really excited that I'm still able to perform and dance in relation to that change. And I feel like the older I get, in a way, the deeper I find the reasoning why movement, performance is important to me. And my body's changing, my ability to do certain things is changing. I also work really hard at not seeing that as a negative thing, but seeing that as a part of dance. That dance can never stay still, or movement never stays still. It's always evolving, it's always changing, and it's about now. And so as an older dancer and a performer, it's really important for me to stay in movement, to stay in a form of performance, because it's about talking about now in my experience. And my aunt was a dancer, and she danced and performed until she was 67. And my father's partner is also a dancer, and she's 75, and she's still performing. And there's something about seeing older, mature bodies and people on stage that I think is very, very special and very important, especially for this scene that's very attached to a certain sense of aliveness and like physicality and young sparkiness, which is all very important, but we also have to have the other side. That our bodies and our experiences accumulate, and there's always something to share with that.
You said it is very important for you to stay in movement, and you gave the reason why. Do you think there should be more platforms in general in the performing arts sector for such experienced dancers to be who they are? And if so, what kind of platforms do you think?
That's a great question. My first answer is absolutely.
Yeah.
I think slowly there are more choreographers interested in having multi-age dance companies. I know one in the States, the Garth Fagan Dance Company. I'm not sure if they're still active, but they had a wide range, very, very physical movement. They had a wide range of dancers, and their oldest one had been there from the beginning, the foundation of the company, and he was still performing in his 50s. And so I think it's very exciting to have, and I'm speaking of the contemporary dance scene. What kind of platforms? I think, after the Forsyth Company disintegrated, then a lot of his dancers created the Dance Now ensemble. And those kinds of like ensembles of older dancers or platforms, speaking platforms that you are organizing, and also kind of artistic research platforms would be so essential for older dancers, let's say, to be able to not feel like just because the body is changing that that's a disadvantage, that actually physicality, presence, attention which is for me very important in performative arts, that those things can continue to mature, can continue to develop up until we've decided to disintegrate into the, or until we've passed on. Things are getting more concentrated, and the essence of what we're doing is becoming like a reduction sauce, getting more sweeter, more to the point. And it's beautiful to be able to share that with younger dancers who, generally speaking, have more of this energy and they just want to do and go and move and do backflips and, and so I think this mixture of energies is really important.
Thank you. I just want to reflect on what you said a little bit. And it is possible to have experienced mature dancers and younger, energetic, fiery dancers in the same company, in the same collective. What do you think needs to be done from both parties for them to exist and flourish positively?
Well, I think there needs to be a really good, if we're talking about simply performers, there needs to be a really good direction. So a director, a choreographer or director that is sensitive to those kinds of differences, and that also invites choreographers or artists that would be creating on the company and also have that sensitivity, and be able to showcase both of those energies. But I think ultimately there needs to be a sensitivity to those different presences on stage. So I don't have a direct answer to that. but I think it ultimately comes down to a sensitivity of the direction of the choreographer or the director of this company.
How did you experience your career as a performing artist overall?
Oh gosh, wow. Overall, I think was been very rich. From my early 20s until my early 30s, I was working with a dance company purely as a dancer that had a very, the choreographer was Brazilian, and so he had a very strong connection to more of an Afro-Brazilian than, let's say, European, West European mixture. It was very active, very musical, very physical. And then, so that was definitely a kind of a strong beginning, I would say, of my dance career. And then I connected with a choreographer who actually was my aunt in Germany. And she came from Hochschule, so she had the whole like Susanne Linke, Pina Bausch, Curtius, that whole experience. And it was completely the other direction. It's much more about space and stillness and feeling and drawing the space with your body parts. And so forth. Very concentrated, very reduced to the most elemental thing. And so it totally took me out of this like, ba, 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 and it was like, it was great, it was amazing. And it taught me a lot. It really brought me a lot more into presence, a lot more into feeling of space and reduction, actually. And then I couldn't go back to this dance company anymore. I was like, there's something deeper I need to find. Like, I got all of my energy out, and it's still there somewhere, and I still have it, but I have there's like a page of the chapter has turned. And then I came to Europe, basically. And then it was kind of the beginning of this whole like freelance scene in Berlin. I was kind of carving my paths with deviations. And at a certain point I was like, I need to have some kind of institutional support. And then I got my master's degree in Frankfurt for contemporary dance education. Not that I just necessarily wanted to only be an educator, but I felt like it was going to give me some kind of base. And then from there, continued my freelance career with people that were interesting to me and attracted me. So one is a dear colleague of mine, Laura Hicks. She's based now in Bochum. Another dear colleague was Sabrina Huth. We created a whole project where we never met for 5 years, and our whole performance was on never meeting. And how do two dancers never meet?
Wait, you never met, but you meant something.
Yeah.
How did that work?
Yeah, well, the big question was, how do you meet another body that you don't actually meet? So how do you feel one another when the other person is not there? And we created practices together where we would communicate on the phone or by email. We also had like Zoom meetings and things, but we were never in physical contact together. And we would have set times where we would have a score that we would practice together without talking to one another. But every day at 1:00, we would have a dance score that we would both do in separate places. And we would write about it, and then we would send letters back and forth about what happened. Or we would send audios about a dance sequence that we did, and the other person would reproduce that dance sequence from the audio. And then our very first performance, we were in Berlin, and what was amazing was in this performance, there were 2 dance performance spaces. So she was performing here, and I was performing here, and the audience stayed, and then without seeing one another, we switched. And we continued the performance. And the whole performance was built on a meeting that never took place. That's the title of the performance.
From the beginning of your artist career to now, I would like to ask, what were the most meaningful moments?
I think the most meaningful moments of my career were when Augusto Soledade, who was my dance teacher in school and asked me to come and dance to his dance company. I was in Brazil, I was studying in Brazil, and he came to Brazil because I studied in his hometown, and after a small performance, he said, "Would you want to join my dance company when you came back to the States?" And I was like, "Yes, I do," because he was a very strong figure in my dance education, and I really loved his energy and loved his movement, and so it was a really wonderful opening. As a dancer, you need to find people who believe in you. I think the second one was working with my aunt in Germany. That another flip that totally changed my career, where she never once gave me a compliment. Never once. But I didn't need to have a compliment, because it's not about complimenting me, but it's about working. And if you really want to do this, then you need to work, and you need to keep on moving through. And that gave me an incredible amount of strength and self-confidence. My third moment was with my friend Laura, my colleague Laura Hicks. That my relationship with her is very unique, and I don't have this kind of artistic relationship with any other colleagues. And the kind of work that we make is very fun and ridiculous and awkward and silly. And this is a side of myself that has been very exciting to develop with her.
How do you think younger dancers now can approach that?
I think it's important for younger dancers, obviously, to feel like they're seen, that they're seen for what they can offer, their individuality. And at the same time that it's about, just because you might be physically capable of many things, you still need to work hard. You still need to be able to fall back on maybe your physical capabilities. But dance goes beyond physical capabilities, I feel. It's about presence and about attention. Performative dance is about sharing something with your public, with the other. And that connection happens because there is another in the room, right? So in my opinion, what makes it alive is actually that third person in the room that you're sharing it to and for, so the public. And so I think with younger dancers, it's this mixture about pushing and about continuing to work, being humble, and knowing that there's something always more.
I know you still practicing and very active in movements, but I think everyone gets challenges. What have been the most challenging moments of your artist career till now? In case you have had any.
Yes. I have many. No, I have many. I think the biggest challenge for me was the fact that I didn't come from any dance school. I didn't have really any classical training, and therefore I was challenged with the fact that I wasn't good enough because I didn't have this really traditional or intensive training from a dance school. And so I felt like I always was lacking in my abilities, and that was hard.
Was that a perception? Should every dancer have a classical training for them to be valued as dancers? Or?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No. I think there are so many different physical trainings that you can do that give you the tools that you need. I wanted to be part of a big dance company. Like the idea of coming to Europe and maybe being parts of a Staatstheater, which I never was like, oh, that would be great, And for me, coming from that background of kind of, let's say, a Western European idea of performance dance, I felt that I lacked because I didn't have a classical background. But then I realized, seeing other dancers that have no classical background but have other movement abilities or movement trainings, were still very valuable, and that was something I had to continue to let go of, and find my strategies that would be able to give me the kind of physical awareness that I needed. But I always felt like I lacked in that sense. I couldn't pick up the combinations fast enough. I didn't know how to do a whatever dance move that was, and I saw others that could. And so, of course, it's like, oh, man,
So then for the younger dancers out there who have a dream of becoming a dancer without classical background, there is a big chance.
Absolutely. Oh, my gosh. Yes.
I now know that you're working in a system You're part of the theater with the youth department. And how does that work? How can you walk us through your work?
Well, I'm very passionate about dance. I love it. I love movement. I love performance. And I feel dance is a specific kind of art form that unfortunately is scary for the normal person.
Should it be though?
Absolutely not. No, it shouldn't be. But it's scary because everyday people that don't have a connection to the arts, or maybe they do, but they go more to theater or opera, that's kind of this thing, you know. And dance is so special because at its base, it's about the body. So it's not about text. It's not about speaking. It's about reading, and through physicality and qualities of the body, you as an observer can come up with your own feelings about it. And so that's scary for people because in general, it's like, I need to know what this is before I experience it. Give me tools, you know, so I know, so I'm not like left at my own devices, which is basically, what do you see? What do I feel? You know? And so what I really like about this job at the Staatstheater is that with all of my passion for dance and movement and all of the tools that I have in order to share my passion, I'm able to go into schools with young students or teachers and be like, dance is not that hard. We all have a form of a body, and this form of the body experiences the world in the body. Your skin, hearing, seeing, smelling, walking, sitting, standing, and all of that is part of a context of movement, which can then be translated in a context of dance. And we just have to be able to observe and sit with ourselves, and also have the tools to open up and see. And so my role in this context is exciting because I get to share my passion with people that have very little experience with dance and be like, yeah, check this out, feel this. You can also do this, or you can also experience this. And then hopefully they go and see dance and there's something that's shifted, you know? Basically.
Have you ever felt out of place or invisible during your artist career in a structure or in a group or in a community as an artist?
I feel like, I don't know if this will really answer your question, but the first thing that came to mind is when I was in Berlin and I was doing all of these auditions. I was getting rejected for one audition. and I was doing this one audition. Yeah, a very like outgoing choreographer. Anyway, and he gave us this task to come back the next day and to bring a song that makes us feel that we would put on when we feel very, very sad. And I had immediately a song that is like this chorus of women singing Gregorian chanting of just women. And we all had to do solos and put this song on and just improvise to this song. So I put it on, and I really felt like at the end, I felt like I just tore my heart open, you know, and it was really emotional. And then I didn't get in. And I was like crying. I was like, oh, my life is over, which is never over, you know. And at that point I decided that I'm not going to audition anymore. I'm just like, no, I'm done with this. This is too exposing. So that was a moment where I think I really wish I would have been seen, or at least like, even if I didn't get the role or whatever, at least I would have been like, wow, thank you. That was really moving. Actually, I once auditioned for Johannes Wieland, and that was like 300 dancers, and they were doing nuts stuff. And I was like, I can't.
When was that?
Oh my gosh! When was that? That was in like the early, let's see, I'm going to do that, maybe 2014 or something.
Okay.
And you know, they're doing like whip falls and all this stuff, and I was like, I think I need more time to learn this. I can't just like do it. You know, those are moments where I was like, shit, I wish I could.
Johannes, this video, if you see this video, this is a picture of your auditions.
But One thing that was really beautiful that I really appreciated is that he took the time for the people that weren't invited or weren't, invited. He took the time to give everyone a feedback, and even if it was a minute, the fact that he could just be like, "Thank you for coming today. I really appreciate your energy. The physicality is not really what I'm looking for, but thank you." It was just this direct, like I had been seen. Okay, or maybe I hadn't, but he just knew that I was whatever. But just the fact that like this very brief personal connection was really nice, and I felt like I could just be like, "Okay, that's cool."
We will send him that clip. Thank you for that. That was funny and sad at the same time. Okay. Have you ever felt like you have expectations from directors and choreographers during your artist career, where you felt like there is pressure with expectation, and how did you deal with that then?
I was part of a dance company for like 7 years or so, but we were very, very small. We were like 4 or 5 dancers. And my relationship to the choreographer was very close. He was like a father figure to me. And he was someone that really believed in me. I was one of his principal dancers along with another lovely dancer. And so there was a lot of trust there. And a lot of love. Yeah, and then I really went off on my own path as like an independent dancer. I didn't have very many opportunities of working with other choreographers in larger contexts. So it's hard for me to answer that question because I feel like I was always making my choices and my decisions. And as a freelancer, you have to take care of social media, of this, of that, of all of these other things that when you're part of a company, or in the case of a Staatstheater, I would assume that a main responsibility is that you show up to rehearsal. You are there for rehearsal, for performance, and of course there are little things with costumes and but you're not responsible for the audience coming to the show. And I think for a freelancer, you're responsible kind of for all of those things, unless you have enough money where you can hire like a production manager to be able to do that for you. So I think coming from the perspective of freelancer, in terms of working in creative relations, that's always been pretty good. But all the more administrative production side has been much more challenging. Being seen, having audience come, not always the same audience, different people. We're not famous, so then no one comes, like that kind of stuff. Was more on the challenging side of things, I would say.
What would you need physically, emotionally, and structurally to enjoy being on stage again?
Oh man. What would I need? Physically?
Emotionally?
Physically, I think it's important for dancers, for me, to have a good space, like an appropriate space to move and to warm up, and a warm floor, and just like everything outside that makes it be able to take care of my body and make sure that it's ready. So I feel in a way dancers are always like it's like they're always in the dungeon. You know what I mean? Like they're always like on the lower level of the building or whatever with no windows. And so that would be nice to have, just like beautiful spaces to move, to warm up and that stuff. I'm speaking from a freelance perspective. Structurally, I think to have structures in place where, as a freelancer, you can really focus on the artistic creation process and have the support of a theater production that can do all the extra stuff. And there are a couple of situations in Lower Saxony, a touring grant that connects you with different theaters, and the grant also supports the communication and the support of that. So that's great. So more things like that. There needs to be more outreach to get different people to the theater.
Wow, thank you so much. I know.
Yeah,
one last second. What would be your advice to the young dancers and institutions to understand about longevity?
Longevity. Longevity, I think, is connected to variations of healthy habits. So, speaking for me, healthy habits is having a variety of different techniques to be able to keep the body strong and malleable and flexible, and be able to also work with different kinds of movement qualities. I think is super important as one. Second, I think it's super important that there's a really good sports rehabilitation opportunity where when dancers are injured or whatever, there's someone there available to help them for recovery. Also an understanding about recovery and what that means and that it's important. And a physiotherapist that's kind of always there is a form of a check-in, what do people need? So I think all of those things are really, really important for longevity of dancers. And I think institutions need to understand that, especially if they're also open to having variety of ages of dancers there. As we age, what happens to the body? Do about it. And instead of seeing it as a negative thing, rejoice in the fact that that's happening.
Please, can you say that again?
Rejoice. There's nothing you can do. We all age, our bodies change, and embrace it. Well, that's a huge, aspect of longevity. Negative thoughts create pain and stress in the body. Not that it can always be positive, but if I work in that direction and have that kind of institutional structural support, then I think there will be A, less injuries, B, less difficulty of dancers who are older but they still want to perform feeling like, oh, I'm too old now, oh no, embrace change and support that. Problematic.
We're going to end here for volume 1, and then we thank you so much.
Yeah!
It's great. It's really been so great to have you on the show, and a lot of inspirational words. And this is not the end. I think this is a pause because of time, but I hope we can continue this conversation next time.
Definitely.
And we hope to have you again on the show.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hearts in motion, embracing artistic